Okay, so let's talk lesson plan specifics. In most traditional ESL or TCL programs, we're going to be in a classroom where we can plan lessons, where we can say, okay, we're doing this activity, which is we need to give this instruction so that we can do this activity, and it's going to be a dictation, right? Well, I'm not in a formal classroom. I'm not going to make the kids do a dictation. Okay, kids, we're going to the gym to do a dictation. No, that's not going to work. The whole point of them being there is to get them in somewhere safe and keep them busy doing something they would actually enjoy. Making kids sit down after getting out of school to write more, especially these kids. I've tried working with inner city kids and trying to get them to learn more. It's just not learn more in like that kind of boring facet. I think it's a lot of fun because we've done it in class before, but they're not going to find it fun. I can promise you that. And so how do we kind of model this lesson plan? What do we make that look like? Because we're not planning out a formal lesson plan where we're going to take 10 minutes to do this, 45 to do this, right? So it looks a little bit different. What it kind of looks like, though, is making sure during instructions, whether that's, okay, let's say we're doing an activity. We're playing, I don't know, Simon Says. Simon Says is a great one. I like this. We're playing Simon Says. When we're explaining the game, we need to pick keywords that are going to be that are important to that definition that they might not know, and we need to make sure we define them with words that are simpler and that they will know, right? That can be the little instruction piece, okay? And that goes for any kind of activity that we do. Make sure we have specific definitions of new words and try to include new words. Like, we can try to include new words into these different instructions that we're giving for activities. And that way they can get a bigger vocabulary. A lot of it's going to be vocabulary based since we're not in a formal area. We're not going to sit them down and have them do grammar. We're not going to sit them down and have them practice their fluency. They're going to do it by being out and about, right? Grammar, they're going to hear from that immersion piece, from hearing us talk, from hearing those that are more efficient and more fluent than them talk. And so we need to, in our instruction, make sure we're hitting definitions, we're repeating words. So, hey, today we're going to play Simon Says. In Simon Says, you say Simon Says, and then you do. So Simon Says, and you make sure you repeat it. Hey, today we're going to play soccer. This is a ball. Can you say ball? This is a ball, right? Like that kind of thing. Making sure we're repeating words so that they're hearing it over and over again and they're getting it down. That's going to be our biggest thing we can do and we can help with. And then we're also, let me look at my notes here. Oh, homework help. Yes, I was going to talk about homework help. During homework help times, that can look like, again, defining words. Okay, hey, I'm helping this kid with his history class. We're learning about the American government. What the heck is legislature? Legislature. That's a big word. They're not going to understand that, right? We need to define that for them. We can help them through that. But we can take that even a step further at times. And so if we say, oh, hey, my student that I'm helping at homework help is learning about American government in school. And so what we can do is we can make a mini lesson over different vocab words that they might hear in class. And so it's not necessarily, kind of instruction, but it's giving them a little bit that they might hear in class, in school, or maybe outside. It's kind of like just repetition and vocab. It's going to be a lot of vocab, I think. Is important here. We want to try to get a lot of vocab so that way they can recognize words or they can be more efficient in school and that kind of thing. And then the last thing I wanted to include in this section, I believe, let me check to make sure there's nothing on the back. Yeah, is if we do have an ESL professional, which I think would be super beneficial. If there's some way you can work that out with the what do you call it? The local school system, you can have the ESL, as I've mentioned, the ESL professional, as I've kind of mentioned multiple times. You can have them drop my mic. You can have them have a class where they are formally instructing students for maybe just like 30 minutes. Nothing too long, nothing too crazy. They've already been through school. They want to do a bunch. They don't want to do a bunch more learning, right? They just want to have fun. And so, but it's still beneficial to possibly have that ESL professional give a little lesson where, say you notice when you give an activity and you're doing this process of enunciating, of repeating, of defining, and you notice there's still some kids that are kind of struggling with it. Well, if we have an EFL, not EFL, we're not doing EFL, that's different. ESL, If we have an ESL professional, we can go to them and say, hey, I'm seeing them struggle with this. Could you do a lesson on this? They can do it, well, one, they can do it in our ministry if we have that capacity. Or two, they can also take it back to the schools with them and they can teach it in school. We're seeing these kids struggle with their history lesson that we're helping them with in home and homework help, right? Okay, let's do a little lesson on history in ESL class in the actual schools, not in ours. Isn't that you can kind of have that partnership? It would be so beneficial. Not only because we can be the eyes that we see them outside of school, because the ESL professionals see them in school, we can be the eyes seeing them outside of school and helping them with their everyday language. Kind of that Bix Calp thing, right? We can see their Bix a lot more than we can see their Calp. He sees their Calp a lot more than he sees their Bix. And so we can kind of help correlate that back and forth. Does that make sense? So that's kind of how we can do lessons plans. It's a lot of informal. Hey, we're going to instruct, but when we instruct, we make sure we enunciate, we make sure we define, we make sure we use new words, we make sure we repeat words, we make sure that we're pairing kids in our activities with kids of different levels. Like, that's a lot of the lesson planning, is kind of just those little small things. It's not this big, okay, we're going to instruct them on new vocab words, and then we're going to make them do a vocab card activity. It's a lot more informal stuff. And then I had a thought and it just disappeared. But that's the basics of it. Oh, assessment. That's what I was thinking. Assessment is, it's really hard to do an assessment in that kind of context. I believe they're going to have plenty of practice because we're going to be encouraging them to use it in their activities, right? We're going to have this full immersion process where we want them to use it. And so they're going to have that practice, but the assessment's a little bit difficult because we're not really giving something that can really be assessed very well. And so it's kind of just paying attention. And when we're watching the activity, if we see them still struggling, okay, maybe it's something in homework help we kind of target a little bit, because I want to have homework help every day if we can, just for a little bit. And so we see them struggling in soccer. Oh, they didn't use that word quite well. Maybe we can target it in homework help if we have enough time. That kind of thing. So the assessment's also very informal, just kind of recognizing how they're doing, not necessarily doing that. Or maybe we can even give a small assessment in homework help. We make a little assessment over the words we've taught them in the activities, and we give it to them. That'd be sick. That'd be awesome. But again, that's a little bit more formal. I want to try to keep it a little bit less formal because it's more of a ministry, not a classroom. And so, but enough of that said. That's kind of the lesson planning procedure. Now I'll jump into the last video where we're going to talk about resources and about how how helpful this ESL professional can be. But really, it's about resources. And so, again, let's jump into it, shall we? If it'll close.